I've said that the ICC tournament will challenge your communication skills, and at the core of that is something I call tournament language arts. Now, the ICC tournament is conducted entirely in English with participants from all over the globe, and they will have varying skill levels in written and spoken English, and that will challenge every student in the competition. Even I've found that even mediating among law students from native English-speaking countries, there are big differences. Scotland, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, the United Kingdom. Even students who are native speakers of English will be challenged by communicating with native speakers from other countries. Regardless of your country of origin and regardless of your English skill levels, you must work on being an excellent communicator at the mediation table. Now, first and foremost, this means using all of your active listening skills. And by active listening skills, I mean your willingness to listen carefully and to confirm what you have heard from the other side so that nothing drops in the verbal back and forth of the tournament presentation. Feel free to say something like, "I want to make sure I understand what you just said. Are you saying XYZ?" In other words, do not hesitate to confirm your understanding as the discussion goes forward. That is the essence of active listening. Now, active listening also involves your body language, your nodding of your head, maybe showing that you are taking notes, asking clarification questions. These are all aspects of active listening, and you must bring these skills to the tournament. Eye contact is very important, and do not forget that your eye contact, taking notes, leaning into the table so that you show the speaker that you are listening carefully, you're nodding in comprehension, and you're stopping to ask clarification questions. This is essential, and it's essential regardless of the level of your confidence in your English communication skills. I coach the students at the Georgetown University, if they're native speakers, even if we are in a round with other native speakers, maybe from the United States, that they practice their active listening skills. Body language and hand gestures are important, and you must be aware that this is an opportunity to show your presence when you are speaking, to use appropriate hand gestures to emphasize points that are important to you. And I think as you prepare for the tournament, it's important for you to get feedback from your team members and your coaches as to such subtle matters as eye contact, hand gestures, body language. Are you sitting up in the chair? Never slouch at the table. This is not an opportunity to relax. If you sense that there is some sort of communication difficulty at the table, by all means address it. Say something like, "I'm having trouble understanding the points you're making. Perhaps you could speak more slowly." It's also, there's an opportunity to ask the mediator if the mediator might assist by either taking notes or writing on the board or summarizing or restating the points that are discussed at the table. Mediators love this. They love to be involved. And in this tournament, the judges will give you high marks for involving the mediator in the discussion. So don't forget, if there's a communications challenge, involve the mediator. For native English speakers that are mediating with non-native English speakers, a few pointers. Number one, slow down your speaking pace. be sure to enunciate. It's important to watch your listeners, watch your audience closely to see their and understand their level of comprehension. Take the opportunity to stop something you're saying and ask for confirmation of understanding. Am I being clear? Do you have any questions about what I'm saying? And of course, avoid using slang, jargon, certainly legalese, even complex sentences and unnecessarily long words in favor of plain English. A plain English presentation is far more powerful and is certainly more effective in a mediation situation. And I would offer these ideas for non-native English speakers. Make sure you understand what the other side is saying, and do not be embarrassed or insecure about your language skills. You can actually use your level of speaking skills to your advantage by asking for help, asking the other side for patience, and certainly stopping the discussion to seek clarity if there is any point being made that you do not clearly understand. Say something like, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I did not understand your last point. Could you repeat it for me?" And as I've said just several times now, you too must use your best active listening skills. Another area that I talk to my teams about is to develop an ear for the language of mediation and collaboration. Law students must be reminded that they are not in a contentious courtroom situation when we are in mediation. It is neutral. It is non-judgmental. It is welcoming, and it is open to ideas, and you must develop language and words that reflect this neutrality and welcomeness, and that you are open to ideas. And if there's a single standard that must be met in mediation and in the discussions, and you can be heard articulating the standard at the ICC tournament, it is fairness. The fairness is far more important than any legal standards that might be brought to bear, and it is one of the reasons that we can have a successful international mediation competition, because often the discussion boils down to what is fair to both parties at the table. Now take a look at the two columns of words that I have over my shoulder here. I have one column of charged terms that might be heard in a court of law, and these are to be avoided. Words like referring to the people at the table as your opponents, or referring to the claims that you have against them, referring to this dispute. It's not a dispute, it's a mediation. Using phrases like your version of the facts, or using you characterizations, such as you ignored our warnings. Now, all of these terms are entirely appropriate in a court of law, or even in an arbitration, where it is far more combative and contentious. Mediation is a horse of a different color, and in mediation, you must develop the skill of using terms like, instead of opponents, referring to your mediation partners. Claims against you are concerns, they're issues, they're agenda items. This is not a dispute, it's today's discussion, it's this mediation. In other words, the words in the right column are far better to use in a mediation situation, and they reflect your neutrality and your reframing, which is something that we'll talk about in a few minutes in this series. Another aspect of the discussions that you will hear at this tournament is the apology. In fact, I think this is something that's a bit overused. There is a lot of apologizing going on at the table, in factual situations where there is, say, an individual who is injured and a corporation that has been involved and perhaps was responsible for the injury. Now, an apology is one of the most effective tools at mediation, and I don't suggest it's overused in order to discourage you. If it's appropriate for the facts of your case, I coach students to, by all means, offer a sincere apology. A direct apology if it's face-to-face, and especially if you have the facts that would make it powerful. For instance, if you're representing a business and your mediation partner across the table is an individual and the dealings have been difficult and there are potential legal liability claims, this is the time to offer an apology. After all, mediation is off the record. This is not something, your apology can never be used against your interests if the matter does proceed to an arbitration or a court of law. And it can be a dramatic part of your presentation. It all depends on the facts of your case, of course, and if you've had a chance to review the facts that you'll be mediating, you'll see that of just the 4 cases that you will handle in the preliminary rounds are usually commercial in nature. Sometimes there are countries involved where an apology is perhaps less important than it would be if individuals and businesses are involved. But we'll leave that to you. It's all part of the language arts of the ICC mediation tournament.